Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Life in General podcast. My name is Nick.
You shut your whore mouth.
Well, whoa. That's enough of that nasty, filthy talk out of you, Ian.
I'm sorry. Please close your whore mouth. Whore mouth?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about whore mouths.
Okay. Well, just shut yours then. Fine.
What's going on, Ian?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
You are the most boring person on earth.
You have no idea.
I do.
You do have some idea,
I do
yeah.
have some idea.
Just imagine being me. I think it's boring on the outside.
I feel like I need to go to the record store.
I do too, actually. I was thinking that myself.
I haven't been in a while. And
You haven't been in like a week.
but I don't. I'm getting kind of tired of going to Dearborn Music.
You should do what I do.
Just not go.
Not go as often. I haven't been to Dearborn Music since like fall.
Yeah, I will say that because for a long time, I've been going to the record store there for a long time. It was like multiple times a week.
Right.
And I've cut back to, once every few weeks now.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even tell you what the last time I was at Dearborn Music actually was that last time you and I went out on a little journey of record stores.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even that extensive because it actually was you, me, and Mandy.
That was like last summer.
Yeah, that was the last time I was there.
Because that was, it's, I don't know. I've been really disappointed in used records lately. I just don't know if
I think the market's it's used up everything that's good that's going to come through.
Yeah, because I would say I bought a lot of records last year, and more than I've ever bought before in my life.
And they were mostly new.
Because I just didn't see a lot of good used stuff out there,
Well,
or the good used stuff that I see out there I already own.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, when you're isolated. I mean, not isolated, but Dearborn Music is in Dearborn, so it's going to absorb as much of the used stuff as it can from around the area.
Yeah.
And once that's done, it's done. I mean, you might get random here and there from people around, the greater area, but there's still an expiration date on the good stuff.
And there's so many record stores. Sorry, I don't mean to hit my mic there. There's so many record stores in that area.
Right.
I mean, you could throw a stone and hit 10 different record stores.
Yeah.
Now, granted, not all of them are all that great.
Right.
But they all have the ability to buy used
stuff,
records.
right? So, they've all pretty much drained the used record market in the area.
Yeah, because it's gotten kind of the point,
because you're right. You used to be able to go there and find anything. I mean, you could literally find almost anything you wanted used.
And I will say that I would go to the record store. I would go to Dearborn Music and pick up 5, 6, 7, 8 records sometimes.
Right.
And I will say 2 out of the last 3 times I went there, I didn't buy a single thing.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I haven't been in a while, but there's a couple albums I need to buy that I've been kind of holding out to buy from a brick and mortar to kind of throw my money in their direction.
Yeah. Which ones?
The new Tori Amos album and the new Iron Maiden album.
Senjutsu?
Yeah.
Which actually, from what I've heard of it,
I've listened to it on streaming quite a few times. It's a very good album. I'm looking forward to the new Ghost album. This will be on our Vinyl Den episode though.
But they're like 2 separate things though.
Yeah, well, the Ghost album I'm looking forward to. That's
the Ghost album. Well,
that comes out March.
The
11th.
Ghost 7-inch came out today.
Yeah, but it's the songs on it. They released on Spotify, and if I'm just going to buy the album.
Oh, the only thing that's on it is the song from Halloween Kills
and the new single.
And the B side of it is the
the Halloween theme.
Halloween Kills theme song.
Yeah. I've been listening to that Hunter's Moon because that's the song from Halloween. I've been listening to that since October. I'm streaming it because it's a good song. It's a really good song.
I'm just lazy when it comes to 7-inch albums.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the idea of buying it, but to me, if Hunter's Moon wasn't going to be on the new album, I would buy it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But Hunter's Moon, it's on.
Album.
I looked at the track listing. It's on the new album, so there's really no point for me to buy it.
Yeah,
because I'll have it anyway.
Yeah,
well, I do want to get the soundtrack to Halloween Kills anyway. So the full
I haven't even
soundtrack.
seen that in a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy that one online. I think.
Yeah, because like I said, Dearborn is a really good store. It has a really good selection, but it's also kind of a targeted selection. I feel like
it feels like it's become kind of that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
I haven't been to the one in Farmington yet, though, so I don't know how that one is.
I've only been the only time I've been there was just the day it opened.
Okay.
And I felt like it was a pretty good selection.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen, because I'm also outside of the Vinyl Den Facebook group. I'm on a couple other Facebook groups, vinyl related, and one of them is a Michigan Record Club, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
And someone posted they got some really good used albums from Farmington.
And again, because that area is still a little fresh. There's people around who might, this place is buying records. I got all these records in my attic or whatever.
But the funny thing is, like Farmington, you're really close to like Found Sound and
That's
UHF
true.
and all that.
That's
There's
true.
like some really big record stores out there.
Right.
So I don't know.
It's hard to say.
The Farmington location, I like it. It's nice. Like I said, I haven't been there since the day it opened though. So,
Right.
And they weren't even like fully set up. They weren't even ready to be open that day. They probably could have waited. Probably should have waited a week or two
Right.
to open up.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you said it was the last time. Like, I'm sure things have changed since then.
Yeah.
Their selection, if it was okay then, is probably even better now.
Yeah. So I need to check that out.
At least on par with.
I need to go out to UHF because I've got a free $30 I need to use out there. But I think I'm gonna wait till something big, like a big box set or something comes out.
You can get a good deal on that way.
Yeah. So, I don't even know how I got on record stores for that. Just because I needed to go.
Yeah. Well, no, I was thinking about it too, but I gotta wait because I still haven't got my savings account back to where I want it to be.
Yeah, me either. What'd you laugh for, Ian?
Just cause.
Mine will be next paycheck, though.
Yeah.
So I'll be
I
back.
bought a lottery ticket today, so there's always hope.
I will say that's become like the American dream, though, hasn't it?
Lottery? Oh yeah.
That's just to win the lottery.
I used to joke because I don't buy a lot. I buy a scratch off here and there, and then when it's a really big jackpot, I figure what's a buck or two? It's not going to hurt anything. But yeah, I used to joke, say, talk about retirement and stuff. Be like, well, I'm still waiting for that winning lottery ticket because that's it. That's my retirement right there.
Yeah.
That was before I was working where I'm working and actually have a retirement fund. Yeah. But it's not going to be as big as, say, someone who's half my age starting there.
Yeah. I won $2 million before. Do you remember that?
I remember you throwing it out the window.
Yeah. I won $2 million and threw the winning wrapper out my window.
Yeah.
Driving down the road because I didn't know it was the winner at the time. I found out 2 weeks later that that kind of sucked. But then again, I probably would have killed myself. With God,
back then you would
God knows what
you would have bought $2
substance.
million worth of coke, and there'd be no podcast to talk about it.
There'd be no podcast, no YouTube channel.
You've been that guy on the news and the big lotteries going on. The news person went up.
Yeah,
she goes, "What are you going to spend your money if you win? We get hookers and cocaine."
Yeah, I saw that. That was hilarious.
Cocaine and hookers.
God, yeah, that's because that's something I would have said.
Back then, yeah.
Obviously I wouldn't have, but
back then you might have.
Not
on hookers. No.
Whenever I've gone to a strip club, I'm a cheap ass. I know I've talked about it on the show before. Like when I go to the strip club, I'm cheap. I'll sit there and
watch.
I'll watch and tip, but I'm not like a lap dance person.
No, yeah. Like I think I've said it a million times. If I'm not going to pay for sex, I'm not going to pay someone to tease me with it.
Yeah. Well, it to me, it's like having a lap dance is like getting a nice ice cold beer, a nice frosty mug on a hot day,
and someone just splashing,
and then taking that motherfucker and dumping it in the grass, because it's just
more accurately sporting on your lap.
My lap.
You can't enjoy it either way.
Well, that's true. That's
at least
true.
it's on you. I mean, that's the argument. Well, we're touching you.
If your lap is wet after the lap dance, at least you had some excitement. You must be.
Yeah, it cost you $20. You could have done that at home for free.
Very true. Very true. You must be wearing sweatpants to the strip club. You gotta wear sweatpants where you get a little extra. The friction's a little bit better.
Yeah, not as rough as the jeans.
Yeah. God. And now no one is listening.
No, I was just thinking, do I have a clean pair of sweats?
Jesus. I haven't been to a strip club in a long time. It's been probably...
I've only ever been to a strip club twice.
Really?
Three times.
Geez.
3 times ever.
let's see. I moved back to Michigan in 2015, so it was probably 2015 or 2016 was the last time I've gone. So it was definitely before I started working in the hospital.
Right.
I don't want to say. I think it was 20. It was probably 20. It was probably 2015. I think it was the first year I came back.
Yeah. I have less than zero interest in ever going to a strip club.
So the last time I went to a strip club, we sat off to the side. It was like 5:00 on a Thursday afternoon, and we sat in there and just drank and laughed at the strippers on the stage. It wasn't even like a sexual experience there. Like, it was literally we were making fun of, because we went to some dive strip club, and we just sat there and make fun of the people that were on stage.
Yeah.
So
because they're the day performers.
Yes, yeah, they definitely needed to be there during the day.
Yeah. Or not at all.
Or not at all. Or not at all. There weren't like bullet wounds or anything like that, but it was almost that bad.
Yeah, healing track marks on the arms and stuff.
Well, it was Ipsy, so yeah, probably. So we do have a topic today.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, you couldn't see like the herpes sticking out or anything, could you?
This place smells like syphilis.
That's not our topic, by the way.
That is not our topic. So lately, I shouldn't say lately. The last several years, I've been getting into not alternate realities, but alternate histories.
Yeah.
And I think it really kind of started with Man in the High Castle.
Yep.
Great TV show. Well, I shouldn't say great. The first 2 seasons were really good. After that, it really kind of got strange.
I haven't watched it. So.
But the first season is awesome.
Yeah.
The second season is good. And like I said, the third season, I don't even think I made it all the way through the third season. I think I stopped halfway through because
there was just the 3 seasons, wasn't there?
I want to say it's 4 or 5 seasons.
Well, it might have gotten better. Every series has an off season.
Oh no, that was bad though. It was.
Usually the first season's the weaker one, but
or
the very last season.
Yeah, the first season was definitely the strongest of it. But anyway, so ever since then, I've really kind of got into these alternate histories, because I think it's interesting. I think looking at alternate histories can maybe help us understand current the actual history
right.
a little bit better.
To some degree, from a philosophical perspective, sure.
Yeah, so and this all kind of we started this series, if you want to call it, because we started this 2 weeks ago, and we'll kind of do these like every other week or so for the next couple of months. But is I got this idea from Chuck Todd's podcast over the holidays. Because it was the holidays, he just recorded these alternate history shows and then kind of put them out on his podcast. And we did one 2 weeks ago. Which one was it we did?
Oh, God, I don't even remember.
Damn, I got a really good memory, but it's really short. We talked about we talked about if Al Gore had won the 2000 election.
Yes.
So today we're going to kind of stick with a presidential kind of theme, and we're going to talk about what would have happened had JFK never been assassinated. Because I think there's a lot of different avenues.
Oh, a lot of things would have been different, and I think that's one of those situations where there's probably a dozen or more different avenues you can go down with this.
I will say that I think the country would be in possibly a worse position.
You think so?
Had JFK survived.
I'm curious because I can see I can see one of those outcomes being negative, but I also see slightly more positive too.
And the reason why I say negative is because had JFK never been shot, there would have been no civil rights. There would have been no voting Civil Rights Act of '64. It would not have been passed.
You don't think so?
Absolutely guarantee 100%. Because
it would have been passed before he got out of office.
I don't think it would have been passed at all.
No, I think it would have been passed.
No, because
he was pushing for it.
Yeah, but it was going nowhere. And actually, there was talk prior to his assassination. There was talk of punting it until after his reelection. The whole push for it, because it had stalled. It was going absolutely nowhere. Right. So Kennedy's assassinated, and then
that's what I mean. He would have been reelected in 64. I'm sure of it.
Possibly, yeah. I wouldn't say for sure. I wouldn't say for sure.
I would say he was popular enough. He would have been reelected in 64. I think the 68 would have been the same.
He probably would have been reelected. I wouldn't say it was a 100% guarantee that he was reelected. But the whole thing was like the election after he was assassinated, the Democrats had huge gains in both the House and the Senate
as a result of his
assassination. Lyndon Johnson was much more of a behind the scenes policy person than JFK was. JFK was terrible at pushing legislation, obviously because the Civil Rights Act had gone absolutely nowhere prior to his assassination. And Lyndon Johnson used his assassination as a way to push do this for JFK, where this is going to be JFK's lasting legacy is this civil rights legislation. That's how he pushed it through the House and Senate. Without JFK dying, I don't think it ever gets pushed. I don't think it ever gets passed. At least in the 60s, it does not get passed.
Right.
It might have had to wait till the 70s, possibly the 80s to get passed.
I didn't think about that in terms of it not happening in 64, because I believe that it would have happened within the 8 years, so pre-68, which is still bad. And the fact that it took to 64 is bad. Yeah. But I saw it happening because you have to remember that if John doesn't get shot, Bobby doesn't get shot.
Possibly.
So you've got Bobby still is in the
Senate. Well, he was a senator.
But when under Kennedy, though, he was
he was
the attorney general.
Yeah, attorney general. Yeah.
So, but I don't think he would have given that up to be senator until after the fact.
Possibly.
I think he would have stayed. He would have stayed in the cabinet for sure. And I think things could have been done for civil rights through the Justice Department that weren't done. Some of the legal things that we still see happening today. So
but it would have been
criminal
something.
Justice things could have been done.
Yes, but there would not have been this huge Voting Rights Act that got pushed, that got passed.
Like I said, I didn't think about it, but you're right. I don't think it would have happened in 64, but I think I'm sure Kennedy would have tried to have gotten it done before 68.
I don't think he would have got it passed, though, because without Kennedy's assassination, the Democrats probably don't have those huge gains.
Right.
And with the House and Senate being a lot more split, they would have needed a lot more Republican support than they did. I mean, there was some Republican support when it was passed in 64. I think a lot of that I think is because of Johnson really pushing it as, the fallen president, his legacy.
That and he gave Vietnam to everybody, so he could use that as leverage.
Yeah.
Because that's the other side of it is there would have been no Vietnam.
I don't think
it was understand it.
No, I think different. It would have been very different. It would have been like we talked about with Gore in Afghanistan. Right. I think it would have been a much more targeted response. It would not have turned out to the way it did.
No, it wouldn't have been a war. It would have been.
Well, it wasn't a war anyway, but
it was a war in every sense other than declaration.
Yes,
but it wouldn't even have been that under Kennedy because he was trying to get troops out of Vietnam when he was killed.
Yeah.
I also think that we wouldn't have a CIA today because he was trying to disband that when he got killed.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I mean, there would probably be an intelligence agency. There'd have to be.
But
it wouldn't be the way it is. The CIA would not be what it is today.
Yeah, I think he probably would have tried to push to disband it. I don't think he would have actually.
No, not completely. I think he could have done enough damage to it to the extent that it would have basically neutered the CIA, which would have been a good thing for if you look at how it translates into the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Because the CIA is, I mean, there's no admitting to it, but we all know that the CIA basically created the drug problems in this country.
To a certain extent.
The heroin problems, the crack problems, those are all CIA initiatives, which led to the war on drugs, which led to mass incarcerations, specifically of minorities, specifically African Americans. And I think that might have not happened as much as a result of Kennedy neutering the CIA.
Yeah. Going back to the Vietnam thing, now that I had a couple minutes to actually really kind of think about it, I don't know. I think there would have been a longer drawn, or there could have been a longer drawn out conflict in Vietnam, just because of the anti-communist atmosphere in Washington at the time, especially with Kennedy. Kennedy was obviously a staunch anti-communist.
Yet he was accused of being a communist on numerous occasions.
Of course. But I think what might have been like the saving grace was, I think he would have seen at some point, hopefully in his 8 years, he would have seen that there was no good end to the conflict and withdrawn.
Well, like I said,
it wouldn't have been as prolonged,
Right.
but I think there would have been a long, at least over the.
I don't think we would have still had
terms.
troops in Vietnam in '68.
I think there would have been troops in '68. I think they would have been winding down.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
in the process of withdrawing, but
how many people would have survived if we'd had how many American soldiers would not have died had we been winding it down in '68 rather than winding it down in '72?
I mean, had Nixon not sabotaged Johnson,
Right.
there would have been 30,000 people that would have lived.
Right.
You know, I want to say the number was like after '68, it was like 30,000 Americans that died.
That's what I mean. Those are the numbers I was kind of thinking. You know,
because there was an end that was discussed and agreed upon between Vietnam, North Vietnam, the North and the South, and the U.S. And Nixon went behind the scenes and blew the fucking deal up because he wanted to use it as a political weapon.
Right. But that's my point. That's Johnson, who we know is a warmonger.
But that's what I'm saying though. Is I think we probably would have got to.
I think
if I had to bet money on it, we would have probably still been at some level involved in Vietnam in '68.
I see it being over by '68. I see our involvement in it being done by '68 if Kennedy survives, because it ramped up as a result of Johnson becoming president.
Oh, absolutely.
He ramped it up.
He did.
So if you don't get that ramp up,
but I don't know. It probably wouldn't have been ramped up to the level it was, but
I don't think it would have been ramped up at all. I think it would have maintained where it was, like you said, been far more strategic. And as a result, you don't have the massive draft. You don't have. This is where it might get, negative in my opinion, but you don't get the anti-war movement because there's no war to be anti-against.
Yeah.
Which kind of takes away some of the art and culture that we did get out of that, when the hippies, for that brief moment where the hippies were actually important in doing stuff.
Well, yeah, because then their anti-government sentiment really kind of bled into the rest of American society, and I think is a direct, where we are now is a direct result of that anti-war movement in the late 60s. Because the anti-war movement turned into an anti-government movement, which turned into which led to state militias and
but it's you think about it like in those terms. Most of those militias are ex-military.
Yeah.
So,
well,
a lot of them.
Well, I will say,
or at least military-minded. So,
and it's post-Vietnam military.
True, but it's still military people, and it's military people who were treated pretty shitty when they came back from Vietnam.
But that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of the people that were in those militias, man, in the mid to late '90s. How many of those were really? I mean, maybe some of them were, but a lot of like Timothy McVeigh and those guys, they weren't
family. They had family who were Vietnam.
Yeah.
But it's that mentality. Oh, look how my uncle or my dad was treated when they came back. The government's not looking out for them. The government's going to take over everything.
Yeah.
That mentality, I don't think that comes from the hippies. What does come from the hippies is a lot of the greed and selfishness that we saw in the 80s.
Yeah.
That's where the hippies came in. Because they figured you can't change the system, you might as well work within it. You might as well use it to your advantage. And that's where you get the greed of the 80s and the, I don't know what you call it in the 90s. It wasn't really greed. It was, the 80s greed was still there. But there was that new thing. It was like that, basically everything that's made fun of in PCU.
Yeah.
The other side of it that's just as bad and insidious, but kind of on the surface may look good, know. But
I guess my other question is, like, I think the way the U.S. handled the Soviet Union would have been a lot different under JFK.
I agree.
I think there would have been a much more of a working relationship with the Soviet Union. You know, I think we still would have worked towards the ending of communism, but after the Bay of Pigs incident
and the missile crisis
and the Cuban Missile Crisis, I think that Cuban Missile Crisis for sure. After that, JFK really kind of changed the way he approached Russia or Soviet Union, and like I said, I think he tried to work with Soviet Union a little bit more than they had previously to that, and I think he would have been able to craft at least over 2 terms if he had 2 terms,
which
over 8 years. Yeah, I mean, if he had 2 years, I mean, if he had 2 terms, it probably would have turned into 3 with Bobby at least. Over the 8 or 12 year span, whatever it was, I think there would have been a vastly different relationship with Russia than what we had.
Do you think that could have led to a blended Soviet Union, in the sense, kind of the way that China is a blended society now? It's a communist government, but it's run as a capitalist society.
Yeah, I mean, possibly.
Do you think? But if that had happened, then Russia would never have fallen.
Correct.
Which may or may not have been a good thing if at least their economy is functioning as a capitalist economy.
Yeah.
Because that's what keeps China in check with everything. But how would that have? Do you think that would have changed the dynamics of the United States going forward post 2000? You know, say the Soviet Union doesn't fall in 1990, 91. Say it continues on and it becomes a global economic power the way that China has become.
Yeah.
Where does that put us? You know,
I think if we have a long-standing, 50-plus year working relationship with the Soviet Union, I think I would assume that by now they would be one of our biggest allies,
right?
Instead of someone that we've been kind of in another Cold War with for the last decade or so.
Right. Well, since Putin's been there.
Yeah.
For sure. But that doesn't preclude the possibility that Putin could have taken power, found ways into power, because he was.
That's possible.
I mean, he was already in the higher echelons of the intelligence agencies.
Yeah. And
now, but what I'm thinking is that China stays on the trajectory that they're on.
You gotta say it right, man. It's China. So.
So China is on a trajectory as similar to what it already is. So, although you don't have Nixon going,
but
to
the
China,
other thing is, here's the other kind of way to look at it, though. Sorry to interrupt you real quick, but if the Soviet Union stays intact and they are a strong ally of the United States, does China end up being what China is now?
That's what I was going to say. I think it does, because
you think so?
Because they did it quietly anyway. There was no.
But they did.
We didn't do anything to force them in that direction. They decided to go in that direction.
Yes, but they went in that direction with Russia's help. Russia has been an ally of China for,
even after the Soviet Union fell.
Yeah,
because Russia really didn't have a pot to piss in after the fall. Of the Soviet Union.
No, but they have. They still backed China for the last 20 years.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I mean, arguably, because they were both communist societies, I would say that China would have maybe even gotten more boost out of them. Because if they're an economic power, then they're an economic ally. They're potentially an economic ally.
But I think if the Soviet Union survives and is, of course, I'm going off the whole. If the Soviet Union could have survived and then in the 80s attacked the United States, and we would have had a nuclear war, right, and we wouldn't even be here right now.
Right.
But
World War III could have happened at any time in this period that we're talking about.
But I really think that had we had a 12, 16, 20 plus year strong working relationship with Russia, with the Soviet Union, I think they would have been a little bit more. We would have been able to have a little bit more influence on what they do internationally.
Yeah, maybe.
Than obviously what we do now.
Well, that's because they have nothing to lose now.
I mean,
even now, even Russia is not they're a weak economy, but they're not a devastated economy.
No.
But they have a leader who doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And they have nothing to lose. There's no rational leader would line their entire military up along a border of a country with the intention of invading it for months. And every time someone says you shouldn't do that, they say, "Oh well."
Yeah.
No one does that except Putin. But as the Soviet Union, where they do, if the threat of war is, well, we could go to war, but it's going to end in both of our destruction because the only way this war is going to end is if, mutually assured destruction. The war is not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Russia has nothing to lose. If Russia really wanted to, they could launch missiles, and they don't care. At least to the extent that, I guess they wouldn't have a country to be in charge of anymore.
Yeah, I guess.
But Putin is the type. If it really came down to it, I could see him launching a nuke just to piss us off.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
No, but maybe not to that extreme. But he doesn't care. That is not off the table for him. Yeah. Is my point. In his playbook, that is not off the table. Whereas most every rational human being, that's not even in their playbook. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think China pretty much takes the same trajectory under those circumstances, which could be a good thing because then you've got three general, technically four, because I'm not sure where the European Union falls into that. Mm-hmm. But they were working towards the European Union even back then. So maybe you've got four very strong economies that kind of cover the vast majority of the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
That could lead to a lot of benefits.
Possibly.
We could be on the dawn of, a minimal universal peace on planet Earth at that point. Yeah. Who knows?
The other question is, Johnson nominated 2 Supreme Court justices. Uh-huh. Could we have been, and one of them, by the way, was Thurgood Marshall. Would we have been better off with Kennedy's Supreme Court or his picks for Supreme Court?
There's no reason to suggest that he wouldn't have picked at least Thurgood Marshall.
That's a good question. I mean, it's I don't know.
I think we give a lot I think we give a lot of credit to Johnson because of the civil rights stuff, but I think a lot of that was Kennedy's stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's just the stuff that he knew he could continue working on and still look good.
Yeah.
I don't like to give too much credit to Johnson. I know it's under him. I don't
think I'm giving much credit to Johnson at all. But,
right. Well, no, because I think he still could have done more personally. But
absolutely. I think really the only thing that Johnson did was while he was in office was, pass the Voting Rights Act in '64, right. And like I said before, that was because of JFK's death.
Well, he did push through some anti-poverty legislation that didn't really go anywhere.
Society and all that stuff, but
for what that's worth, you got to look at both sides, I guess. But I've made it very clear on this podcast because we've talked at length about some of our favorite presidents. Johnson is not anywhere near the top of that.
I didn't realize that Nixon actually put 4 Supreme Court justices on the bench.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Though, of course, they were all
Republicans.
Yeah.
Well, back then, at least Republicans were somewhat rational. If you put someone on the bench, even if they were Republican, they were still going to adhere to the Constitution as their job requires them to. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
Huh. I think if Kennedy hadn't been shot, I don't think we get Ronald Reagan as president.
Actually, I don't know. I think Reagan probably runs for president. I don't know. That's an interesting thing to think about because I think Reagan actually runs probably in 76.
I don't see him running in 70. Oh, maybe he's running. I don't see him winning.
Here's the thing. I think if you have, say, 16 years of Kennedy's in office,
I don't think we'd get 16. Maybe 12, but I don't
76 would be a prime year for a West Coast Republican to slide in and win a presidency.
That's true. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it could have been Reagan. Because I don't know if Reagan would have won in 76.
I think he would have. Yeah.
I don't know. The world was different even from 76 to 80.
It all depends on who he would been running against.
True, but see, that's the thing. He won in 80 for 2 reasons. One, yes, the country was moving in that direction, but he also had Carter's a good person. He's a great man. He was not a good president, and he wasn't good at campaigning.
Well,
And he had a lot going against him because of the cheating. Reagan wouldn't have had that cheating ability, at least to that extent, in 1976.
One of the big things that hurt Jimmy Carter was the holding of the hostages, which is something that the Reagan administration, prior to the election, went behind Carter's back and made a separate deal with Iran to hold on to the hostages until Reagan had taken office. Right. That's why they were released hours after his inauguration.
Right. He didn't have that, but he didn't have that leverage in 76.
No.
And if, depending on who he's running against in 76, he's not running against Carter in 76.
That's what I was just kind of looking at. I was trying to look and see who was the presidential primary, 76 presidential primaries. Let's see. All right, so 1976. In 1976, does Reagan beat Jimmy Carter? Do you think, if Jimmy Carter runs?
I think he could beat Jimmy Carter. Yes. Okay. But I don't think he could have beaten a slightly more charismatic Democrat.
Because here's the other thing. This would have been interesting. This would have been really interesting. A 1976 presidential campaign, Ronald Reagan against Jerry Brown. Two California politicians running against each other.
I don't know a lot about Jerry Brown.
Jerry Brown Jerry Brown probably wouldn't have won because he's always been a lot more, at least as far as I know, been a lot more of a progressive Democrat.
Right.
Than
but we could be with say 8 to 16 years of Kennedy's, we could be in a much more progressive country too.
Possibly.
Especially under Bobby. I think if Bobby did get a chance, I don't think this country would have put up with 16 years of one family.
You don't think so?
Not back to back.
I think they would.
I think you have Bobby running in 76. Because likely.
I could see. I mean, in 2016, if Michelle Obama was running for president, do you think she would have won?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think she would have won re-election in 2020?
Yes.
Because I could say yes for both of those.
Yeah.
I could see 16. But I could see 16 years of Obama.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't. Well, all we know about Bobby is what we have historically. Yeah. I'd say we know a lot more about Michelle, and even between the two Obamas,
because that happened in our lifetime. So.
Right. But she's also more. She's even more likable than her husband overall.
But Bobby was also.
True,
especially in like
our perception of him, given historically.
Everything.
But here's the thing: I see Kennedy running out his 8 years and Bobby's going to stay in his cabinet. He's not going to leave his cabinet. But I see Bobby running for Senate in 68 or some, congressional or Senate, whatever. I see him doing that, and then I see him running in 74 or 70 or 72 or 76.
I don't know. I could see him still running in 68, even as
not having been in office, actual office. I think that would have worked against him.
Personally.
I think it would have worked. I mean, it practically works against people. At least it used to. Now,
had JFK had a wildly successful 2 terms, which he possibly could have. I think
that being said, I'm not saying that a Democrat doesn't win in 68. I'm just saying I don't think Bobby even runs. I think Bobby waits it out until, like I said, at the earliest 72, but more likely 76. So especially if a Democrat wins in 68.
So you think in 68 it's Nixon that wins?
I think Nixon goes up against a different Democrat. I do. Granted, it could mean Nixon victory for sure. And if that's the case, because we don't have Nixon's involvement in the assassination, I know it's a conspiracy theory, but it's true. Because we don't have that, we don't have his this legacy of criminal behavior. We probably don't get Watergate. So we have 8 years of Nixon. Then we get Bobby in 76.
Yeah, I don't know. But let's go back to the whole 76 running, the Reagan thing.
Jerry Brown, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know enough about him.
The other candidates were George Wallace, which
no.
Reagan destroys him.
Yep, absolutely.
Frank Church, I don't know who Frank Church is. Henry Jackson, I don't know who he is. And Mo Udall, which he would have. Out of those 6 candidates,
Jerry Brown's the only one I was familiar with.
Well, Jimmy Carter.
Right.
I think Reagan would have had a harder time to beat Carter, which I think he would have anyway. He wouldn't have beat Carter as decisively as he did.
No, it wouldn't have been a landslide, but he would have. I still see him beating Carter. Here's the thing. Like I said, I don't see Bobby running in 68. I see him waiting until 74, 72 or 76. And if he runs in 76, I see a Kennedy-Carter ticket. Kennedy as president, Carter as vice president.
Possibly.
That's what I would see. That would be the more likely scenario.
Yeah.
But just imagine what kind of world we could have with those two in office. I mean, Carter's pretty progressive. Bobby was pretty progressive. Could you imagine that? I mean, the 80s would have been completely different.
Bob Dole was vice president?
No, not that I'm aware of.
So in
under Ford.
Under Ford, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I not remember that?
Because it's not really talked about.
Because it was, I guess not. That's
because Ford wasn't really elected president. I mean,
so when Ford took over, did he not have a vice president? Because Dole was his vice presidential nominee in 76, but he lost in 76.
Right.
Because Gerald Ford is the only president we've had that wasn't elected.
Right. I mean, he technically was by law. He was elected as the vice president to do exactly what he did.
Yeah, but who was his vice president?
I don't know. Look it up. I don't have my phone open, so you got your computer out.
Who was Gerald Ford?
He had to have a vice president. I mean, unless he just if it was the Speaker of the House, who's next in line.
Oh, duh. Nelson Rockefeller. That's right. That's right. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, because when I saw that, I was like, Bob Dole? I don't remember Bob Dole being vice president. That's why. Because he wasn't.
Right. I mean, when you said vice president, I was like, I never knew who Gerald Ford's vice president was really until you mentioned it again. But
that's the one
when
thing.
You said Dole, I was like, sure, I guess, maybe.
That's the one thing that I can say is, if Trump runs again in 2024, I guarantee he has a different running mate.
Oh, absolutely. If Trump's running, DeSantis is his vice president.
I think that's who his vice president.
Yeah, there's no question. The only way DeSantis is running for president is if Trump doesn't. Yeah. And if Trump does, it's DeSantis is going to run as his vice president.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know.
Either that or Marjorie Taylor Greene.
No, sure. I don't think that's going to happen.
I could see him picking her just to say, look how progressive I am. I have a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
See, I have a woman too. You know,
the crazy one.
Crazy is it's an improvement when you call crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's she makes Sarah Palin look normal.
She does. She really does.
She makes Sarah Palin look like Bernie Sanders.
And that Boebert chick too. She's just as bad.
Yeah.
The sad thing is I kind of think she's attractive, but she's so fucking batshit crazy. It makes her hideous.
I don't know if I've ever seen a picture of her. So.
Oh, I can't remember.
We'll look up after we're done recording. But I don't know. What else do you think would have happened with JFK? I mean, I can see. Like I said, I think he would have had a successful 8-year.
I agree.
In office.
Yeah. Like I said, I truly believe this would be my scenario. Kennedy alive, the war's over by 68. The Vietnam conflict is over by 68. Done. We might have some troops still in South Vietnam, this way we have in South Korea, but for all intents and purposes, it's done. Possibly the whole Soviet Union thing, but at least domestically, I see 68. The war's done. I'm sure before 68, the Voting Rights Act gets passed. I'm sure of it. I'm as sure of it as I can predict, I guess.
Yeah, I highly doubt it would.
I think he gets it through, on the grounds that he has his popularity is up because of his getting the Vietnam conflict over, because he avoids all that bullshit with the hippies. So,
yeah,
he's I think his poll numbers would be high enough that he could use that popularity as leverage to get this stuff done. That being said, and I see Bobby staying in his cabinet till the end of the terms. I see Bobby running for office, but not presidency, office in 68. I see him winning, and then I see him running for president in most likely 76. That being said, if Nixon wins in 68, which is probably very likely.
Yeah, I don't think it is, because
if Bobby's not running,
Nixon won that election on the back of the Vietnam War.
Yes, but he also won it because Bobby died.
Well,
Nixon would not have beat Bobby.
He also helped him win that election was the vote got split, because Humphrey ran against, it was Humphrey, Nixon, and George Wallace.
Right, but you don't get that with Bobby running. If Bobby ran in 68 against Nixon, Bobby would have won if he hadn't died.
Yeah.
There's no question. Nixon doesn't become president. But I'm saying Bobby doesn't run in 68. He waits. If Nixon wins in 68, Bobby runs in 72. If Nixon doesn't win in 68 and say another Democrat wins, then Bobby runs in 76 and wins.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the political climate would have been better for Bobby to run in 68 than
like I
to
said,
wait.
I could I see a 16 years of Obama? Yes, I probably could. I do not see the country allowing 16 years of Kennedy. And that back then, people were a little bit more conscientious of some of the dynamics that are involved there. Legacies and dynasties and things like that. And the Kennedy,
but you have
they
to
already
remember,
had the Camelot thing hovering over their heads, which was not, for the most part. Some people said it as a compliment. Most of them said it as a curse. It's a curse.
So, but that's what I'm saying though, is like the United States has never had, at least in modern times, hasn't had a royal family. The Kennedy family was seen as the American royal family. They were treated like the American royal family. Right. And that's why I said there was this love affair. And that's why I said, as long as, now granted, if you look at it this way, if JFK in his second term had a bunch of conflicts and there was issues and, if there was a recession or something like that, I would 100% agree with you that, in 68, Bobby would look at him and been like, I can't fucking win this climate. I'm going to go to the Senate and work and worry about that later. Mm-hmm. But I think had JFK had 2 successful terms, I think Bobby probably would have looked at that and said, look, now is the best time for me to run. Mm-hmm. Even though I haven't been a senator or anything else, just as Attorney General, I think the Kennedy name had the cachet and the support, the broad support from the country that he probably would have won.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think strategically it makes more sense for him to wait it out.
Yeah.
And play around in the Senate or the House for a little while.
But he was only in the Senate for a couple of years.
Right, but still, that's all you would need there too.
Yeah.
And like I said, if
he didn't even complete one term.
But if by some chance a Democrat wins in 60 that's not Bobby, that gives him 8 years to play, or 4 years for sure, to play around in the Senate. And if it's he definitely doesn't run in 72, 74, 72. I keep going back and forth on 72 and 74. He doesn't run in 72 if the Democrat wins and hopes for the best. Most likely Nixon wins. Regardless. He loses in 68, he's going to win in 72.
Yeah.
So you get 4 years of Nixon, but then you have Bobby running against Nixon in 76. And Bobby beats Nixon every time. That strategically it makes more sense because you're stretching out, because then you get 20 years of Democratic control rather than 16 years of Democratic control.
Yeah.
With just a 4-year gap in there with Nixon.
I will say that in the 68 primaries, Bobby was doing really well in all the polling up until his assassination.
Yeah. And there's no way Nixon would have beat him because people were still...
No. Even in the reality we know, even with the even with the Vietnam War raging on at that point,
right?
You're right. I think Bobby still would have won.
I think, say John dies, John gets assassinated, Bobby doesn't, Bobby wins.
Yeah,
because he's going to run off his brother's legacy, which I think Bobby would have probably been the better president anyway.
Yeah,
grand scheme.
So the last 2 polls prior to Bobby's death, Hubert Humphreys was actually leading him.
Really?
In polling.
Yeah, I don't know. I still see Bobby.
Like the last poll, both of them were in. Hubert Humphrey had 40% support, and Bobby only had 31%.
Of Democrats, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I think in a general election, I think Bobby definitely beats Nixon.
Yeah.
Nobody liked Nixon. Nobody liked Nixon. Nixon was the Ted Cruz of his time.
He really was. He really was. So I don't know. It's really kind of interesting to look back on that time period and kind of, because you're right. I mean, just about there's a million different possibilities of what could have happened.
Right.
And some of them could have been really great for the country in the long run. Some of them might have been really.
I see there's scenarios that lead to World War III.
Absolutely.
Before the end of the century. Sure. Yeah.
But anything else to add, Ian? That's kind of all I had.
No, I mean, your Hormouth's still going, but that's about it.
Any questions or comments, you can email us at Ian. What's our email address?
At Life in General Pod.
There's
not
there's
an
not
at.
an
I
at.
know. lifeingeneralpod@gmail.com.
Yes, we are on
There
Facebook.
is an at because we're saying it's our address is at.
Well, but you always say at Life in General, and that's not what it is. It's
Well, that's because I didn't put a hash brown in there, right? Hashtag. That was a joke from Cobra Kai. Put one of those hash browns on it.
Jesus.
Hey, it's a funny, awesome show. Goddamn
Yeah.
awesome show. That's what I started to say.
well, that's all I got. Until next time,
Talk to y'all later.
peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, old lady, drop a guard around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two GoPros, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bruh. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some downside. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit, watch out, you the god, Billy. Oh shit, right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch. With a gold smile, you should probably make placement to your eye, niggas sick as fuck. Standing with niggas who down for that party, who down for some bitches who showing their bodies. Swear to God.